Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Mishal Saeed, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to have Marwa Sadek, the co-founder of SalesMax, joining us today. Marwa is royalty, a dynamic leader with a passion for operations, diversity, and really building platforms to help enable startups from zero to sustainability in terms of their growth and pairing them with all of the fundamentals and tools. From really streamlining tech startup operations, she is shaping the startup ecosystem one step at a time. We're going to dive in, explore her founding story, how she's fueling early stage growth and her vision for scaling game-changing ventures. So I'm going to pass the mic over to you, Marwa. Let's dive in. Welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate you guys reaching out and allowing me to share my story. I hope it can help other entrepreneurs and help them probably avoid some of the mistakes I've had along the way.
Absolutely. Like I said in the beginning, before we started recording, I was just saying I'm so excited to have this call with you today and really share with our listeners, some of the entrepreneurs still finding their footing journey, like what got you started, really like that journey thus far. So let's dive right in. Let's kick things off. Take us back to the beginning. What specific problem was it within the startup landscape, perhaps around community gaps, like really some of the operational efficiencies that inspired you to really want to enter this space and become an entrepreneur?
This is a very interesting question because I actually started my career in corporate marketing and I was enjoying it a lot. But everything changed when I joined my first tech startup back in 2010. It was like stepping into something entirely different, a lot of experimentation, speed. It was a thrill.
Mm,
And for the first time, I wasn't just marketing a finished product, I was part of building something from the ground up. I was directly responding to real customer needs, and that energy made me feel so good. So
mm,
I fell in love with startups, and so I launched a marketing agency. I really wanted to support other startups, so I offered discounted packages, specially tailored for tech founders.
mm,
But many of the startups who reached out had built products no one wanted or had launched without understanding their customers or their market properly.
mm,
So I discovered I was trying to save ships that were already sinking. And it was both exhausting and frustrating, like feeling I'm not able to do it every time.
mm,
And that's when it hit me. Startups don't need a marketing agency, they need a growth partner from day one. So someone who could help them validate the idea, build the right product,
mm,
launch, and then scale sustainably.
mm.
So that's exactly why I thought of creating Sales Max as startup's growth partner from idea to sustainable profitability.
Love that. Love that. No, I can tell a lot of your experiences have shaped the present success. Let's get into the nuts and bolts really for our listeners and even potential partners tuning in. Walk us through SalesMax and really how SalesMax, presents its offerings. What are the core offerings that, you have, and how do you structure what you do for some of the clients, community of founders, startup owners that are looking to work with you?
Okay, so in the beginning, our offering was more focused on helping startups create more revenues, building creative funnels, and coming up with product solutions that will help them generate more leads.
Mhm.
But as we grew, we packaged our services customized to startups in three main stages of their life. So there's the idea and product market fit stage, the initial growth stage, and there's the scaling stage. Startups in the idea and the product market fit stage, the very first one, they're in the beginning. We help founders shape the right offer, launch an MVP, and test it with real customers to make sure there's a real need. And then we start off understanding the problem and building persona profiles. And
Mm,
then we work together on the product feature prioritization based on the impact and complexity of each feature. So we actually start shaping the product according to the real need and according to the budget, which most startups have a problem with. At the
mm,
end of the stage, we launch an MVP and aim for some traction to help us see how customers will really behave. At this point, we probably discover some gaps, which is great. We love to discover gaps early on because otherwise startups would discover those gaps down the road when fixing can cost a lot of money. And in some cases, it would cost them their actual survival. So in the initial growth stage, the second stage, startups already have some traction, and we work with them on analyzing their customer behavior and help them build healthy growth funnels. We decide on the channels and messages that need to be used at every stage of the customer's life cycle. We develop strategies to improve customer acquisition, but we also invest heavily in customer retention. We want to make sure that our customer acquisition efforts are not in vain and that the customer will actually stick. We
Mm,
continue to tweak those funnels and we promise a churn rate of below 20% and a profit margin that would secure the company's sustainability.
mm,
Then comes the third stage where startups want to boom, they want to scale. Startups are confident more about their offerings and they have significant revenues and a fair profitability. So they're ready to fly. What I love to do at this stage is help startups multiply their existing loyal paying customers.
mm,
So we aim at scaling based on what had already worked for them. At the
mm,
same time, we try introducing new products that will capture new markets.
mm.
And in the past few years, we've achieved an amazing revenue growth rate, like 400 and 500%, just by introducing a new offer to a customer who was already interested, but was waiting for that extra value to take a step. We have the basic monthly fee model where startups are charged for one of our packages, but this is not our favorite.
Yeah.
We consider ourselves partners and we're confident of what we promise. So we offer what we call a partnership model, where we offer our services at all three stages at a
Mm,
cost plus equity offer. So
mm,
startups feel we have skin in the game.
mm,
And we actually recently started building our own in-house MarTech startups. So a lot of startups in the marketing field where we bring co-founders on board and we continue to act as a growth partner as usual. So
mm.
it's really doing everything we can to build and grow.
Love that. Love that. Really, you've amassed an incredible following on LinkedIn, just over 1 million followers. And I'd love to learn now about how you're currently acquiring some of your users and partners. What are some of those channels that have been really effective? Whether it's some of your marketing, your thought leadership on LinkedIn, your women in tech network, referrals, like how are you building your community right now? If you can share with the listeners more on that.
Okay, so for a long time, we've actually depended on referrals and word of mouth, which is super great at the early stages because client trust comes by default. We don't have
Mm,
to make an effort to earn their trust. But then as we scaled, it was necessary to start reaching out, which is, I have to admit, is challenging. And we were worried we would start compromising the quality of startups we work with. So to ensure we capture clients who are serious and aligned with our values and are ready to invest in their growth, we started relying heavily on content where we share our knowledge online and offline on digital platforms and in startup conferences, events, trade shows. And it's interesting because as we gain customers' trust and drive inbound marketing, we also pay it forward to the startup community,
mm.
helping fellow entrepreneurs learn and figure out what works best.
Love that. Yeah, that is so unique. And I've been following you for quite some time. So I was like, wow, so much consistency in the content and really what's being produced out there and really top of mind. That's what I can say as someone within the MarTech space. Now, I'd love to learn about your approach to partnerships and growth. If you can enlighten the audience, what are some of those strategies that are effective in engaging founders, startups, and really just building those initial touch points and relationships? How are you doing that right now? What does the infrastructure look like within the business, within SalesMax, and just through your own personal experience, if you can share with us?
Our sales process is really built on customer relationships. So we've developed something like a semi-automated process to help speed it up, but it still depends heavily on our communication. The startup reaches out and we hold an initial debriefing call to understand more about the startup and its challenges. And then we jump directly to putting together a draft work plan. So we don't really make an offer. And so we jump directly into what we promise, including milestones and targets. This helps the clients get into the mood and get a taste of what we'll be doing together and what is expected from all stakeholders. We
Mm,
then hold an alignment meeting. Probably by this point, the startup, the founder, he's clear on whether they want to go forward or not. So we hold an alignment meeting, the work plan, and decide together on which model they would like to go forward with. It's straightforward and simple. The leads mainly come through content. So, like I was mentioning before, we utilized content
Mm.
along with a few other content platforms, LinkedIn, and in sharing our learnings, giving advice, and responding to the entrepreneurs' unanswered questions. We contribute as a team. It's not just the founders. We each contribute in our areas of knowledge under the umbrella of Sales Max. So there's a lot of us talking and a lot of questions being answered, and this is how clients find their way to us.
Love that. Yeah, the community you've built is incredible and really just like that source content, the value exchange between founders. It's so pivotal that you've created that platform and that space for everyone to really think a lot about that. The growth has been incredible from what it sounds like. A lot of times we have an audience of listeners, founders and entrepreneurs that are still trying to find their footing. They're still like trying to figure out what's the best venture out there. How do I scale my startup and my company? If you can share with us, get a little bit personal on some of the challenges, some of the bottlenecks that stand out for you right now with growing Sales Max, what would it be? Is it operationally figuring out acquisitions still, really preparing for public launch? What are you focused on solving to keep the momentum going that you've generated this year?
We have a couple of challenges. I think a lot would share with me the difficulty of managing projects, project management. We work 100% remotely, 100% flexible. So this gives everybody on the team the flexibility and the feeling that they own their time. However, the tools are still not yet that mature to manage everybody on board. But that's not the biggest challenge. I think our biggest challenge is that some founders still see us as a service provider rather than a true co-pilot on their journey. We are constantly trying to break that barrier and earn a seat at the strategy table with our startups. But if we want to be seen differently, we need to act differently. And so we're putting more effort into understanding the founder's world before we get into a conversation, their vision and their challenges. We don't lead conversations with numbers. I don't think this is the way we should lead a marketing conversation anymore. We show up with insights and a strong story. So as we grow, it's more difficult to maintain the kind of customers we like to work with, which magnifies the perception problem. But for that reason, we found it absolutely necessary to open startups from across the globe. We don't limit ourselves to a geographical region anymore. It's about the startup quality. So we have a much bigger pool and we have more room for being selective.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, Bas, leading with that storytelling. Really, and that's what we do here as well at Closers. We really want to find out, hey, what are some of those challenges? What's the gap from where you are right now to where you want to be, and how can we solve that at the end of the day? I love the fact that you're thinking a lot about that, and I'm super excited to see everything that you grow into this year. You're already so successful now, and with Sales Max, we're looking forward to seeing really what that runway is as you head into 2025. Now, if you had to really identify one thing that would expand your reach globally, what have been some of those tools and tactics that you've been exploring to get on a global scale? And it's more because I've seen the incredible growth you've accomplished thus far in the last couple of years. If you can share with the listeners some of those ways that you've been able to reach global audiences, I'm sure we would appreciate some of that insight as well.
I'm not sure if I understand correctly. You want me to share our strategies to reach out for global audience?
Yeah, what's been like the best way in which you've been able to make an impact globally? I would love for you to share a little bit more on that, like how you've been able to grow on a global scale. What have been some of those strategies that have contributed towards your success in that sense?
I find that startup language is universal. So startups across the globe, like wherever I travel, countries in Europe, in the Middle East, all over USA, I met entrepreneurs from Africa, from the Far East, even like I've met entrepreneurs everywhere, and whatever language they speak, startup language is universal. So what I do is that I make sure that I understand the pain of every industry because startups again are different. So I try to understand the industries, and we've narrowed down our industries to make sure that we have a stronger learning and a deeper understanding of those industries. So We work with e-commerce, with fintech, and lately we've introduced AI. And that way we have a better understanding of the startups we're talking to. How we reach out, I believe there's a lot of space on the internet. So LinkedIn has been a really good way of reaching out. But again, content platforms, blogging platforms, and videos on different platforms, social media, people see them everywhere. We don't really need to make an effort to reach out.
Yeah.
And I'm so not into advertising. I don't think this is a perfect way to reach the audience you want to, the right quality you want to reach. We rarely do run advertising. We depend mainly on inbound marketing.
Love that. Yeah. Being consistent with the content and really just providing the value like online. That's really what it is about. Now, with everything you've accomplished, I'd love to hear about your vision for the near future. What's top of mind for growing Sales Max over the next 6 to 12 months?
We're pretty much moving in two directions. The first direction is to focus, as I mentioned, on the e-commerce, fintech, and AI, which should allow us to double the number of supported startups over the next few months. We also want to maintain our comparatively high profit margins, so this is our way. We're also giving a lot of attention to our in-house startups, which by nature allow us to be involved from the very first point. And we guarantee a higher success rate through those. So we're reaching out to new startups within the three domains, and we're reaching out to actually, this is another sales funnel where we have to reach out to excellent founders that we want to partner with, bring them on board to our startups.
Absolutely. No, I love that. Now, I want to get a bit hypothetical here because I love your passion for connecting the startup ecosystem. If you had a genie in the room, you rub the lamp, and now you have all these unlimited resources, what would you implement immediately? And I ask every guest this to accelerate the growth of Sales Max today.
Oh my God. If I had a genie, I would go build so many cool products that I've been saving practically in my drawer. I would invest heavily in tech development, building products that perfectly match a part market need because I've been working in marketing for so long and I know what marketeers need. So I know we need to build such products. There's just too many and there's so little time and resources. I would solve some serious industry problems and build products that are basically designed to boom.
Wow, incredible. Sky's the limit. I'm excited to see how all of those, come into fruition as you go one step at a time with really growing Sales Max this year. Now, for the listeners, entrepreneurs, founders looking to follow in your footsteps, what's the best piece of advice you can give to them about scaling a startup consultancy, perhaps from like a mentor, your background in MarTech, or like your personal network? What would you say just on one parting note?
Okay, one thing I would say, focus on fewer, better clients who are truly aligned with you. And not every client deserves to be your client. So this is one thing I've discovered it the hard way. And for early stage founders, I would say validate your product early. Invest in your go-to-market strategy before you invest in branding. Startups tend to invest in too much branding. And don't be afraid to say no to fake growth or vanity metrics. Sustainable growth isn't glamorous, but it's what keeps you alive for a longer time, even after the hype fades.
Love it. Yeah, focus on the things that matter and not the vanity metrics. Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. On that note, that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. Marwa, thank you so much for sharing your remarkable journey and insights with us today, from really boosting diversity in tech, really creating a startup ecosystem on LinkedIn. You're connecting founders, startup owners, and really just people who are passionate about this space together with such a strong community online. So really excited to see where you take Sales Max this year. And we're wishing you all the best as you venture into this new territory. So to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find some more resources and insights at Closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their growth through trained appointment setters and world-class sales systems. Until then, keep climbing. We'll see you all on the next one.